second. All right. All right, so I'm starting to call up. No one be weird. No one be weird. Hello?
Hey, JoJo.
Hey, how you doing, man?
How's it going, man?
It's going good. All right, real quick before we get started, chat. How does audio? Is it good? Everyone say hello to Victor. This is the homie from UWD. We're gonna introduce him in a second. Yo, Victor, bro, can you say something real quick?
Hey, can y'all hear me?
Yeah. Okay. They say you sound good. All right, so look, y'all. Big shout out to Vic for coming through. You know what I'm saying? And letting me ask him some important questions, bro. So Vic, bro, go ahead and introduce yourself to the chat, bro.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, what's up, y'all? My name is Victor. Calling from Philadelphia.
Yes, sir.
I am the program strategist for UWD Dream. Originally from Venezuela. Been working in organizing and the immigrant rights movement for quite some time. Just really excited to be here and to have this conversation with you all, because let me tell you, it's gonna be so important, with everything that's coming next.
Yeah, no, definitely, man, definitely. And again, I mean, I appreciate you coming through and letting me interview. I told Chad, I was like, look, man, after the election and everything, this conversation has to happen, So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I'm gonna ask you my first question, if you don't mind. And also, if we have time at the end, chat was wondering if they could ask you some questions as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, man. Yeah, okay, yeah. Then let's get it, man. Let's get it. All right, so Vic, bro. My first question is kind of about Trump's re-election, and what does that mean for immigrants all around America now that Trump is back in office?
Yeah, let me start by kind of just telling people a little bit more about United We Dream and what we do, and why we feel like this is the time for us to turn to community.
Mm-hmm.
We essentially are the largest immigrant youth network in the country, with over 1.2 million people, most of them directly impacted folks, people on DACA, people on all different kind of statuses, some people undocumented, right? And so we really are a network of directly impacted communities and immigrant youth that care about their families, their communities, and people around us, right?
Yeah.
When we talk about what's coming next, I think we should kind of just start with the basics, right? Because it really seems like a lot of people and a lot of young people in particular have absolutely no idea what the magnitude of the next administration is going to be, and specifically when it comes to immigrant rights,
right?
A lot of people have actually no idea what this means, right?
Yeah.
So I'm gonna start by kind of just putting context into this, so people kind of understand, right?
Right.
If you look at the actual policy proposals that these anti-immigrant politicians and the next incoming administration is trying to do, right?
Yeah.
I'm not talking about Project 2025 or any of these other things. I'm talking about quite literally the policy proposals that they campaigned on and they're proposing, right? They are explicitly trying to carry out the largest deportation in U.S. history by invoking something called the Alien Enemies Act, right? That's essentially a war law that was designed to give the president the authority to racially profile, detain, and deport any non-citizen deemed as a threat by the president. What are the considerations to deem someone a threat? No one knows, right? But this is the kind of power that these bill and this act would have for the president.
So would you say it's kind of like stop and frisk? You know what I mean? How no one really knows what because you know how whenever stop and frisk was a thing, cops could just be like, hey, you look suspicious for some reason, I'm gonna stop you now. You know what I mean? And it was really, really bad for everybody. Is it kind of like that, but now for immigration and deportation and stuff?
Yeah, I would invite people to, look up like what the Alien and Enemies Act is. It
Yeah.
has been used in the past, most recently during World War II,
Mm,
to infamously put Japanese citizens in internment camps, right?
Jesus. Wow. Yeah.
Is the kind of law that racially profiles. And to be honest with you, this past 2 years, we have seen local and state versions of this already, right?
You're
In
right.
Texas with SB4, in Arizona with Proposition 314, there have been bills that essentially provided reactionary powers to the state governments to essentially, serve as immigration agents, right? Like
Right.
racially reporting and profiling and detaining people just by, looking at someone and saying, oh, they look undocumented. The thing is, like, no one knows how someone undocumented looks like, right? So
Right.
it really does lead to systemic racial profiling, mass detention, and deportation and violation of like our basic human and civil rights. Not to mention, it leads to family separation for like hundreds of thousands of people who just are trying to live their lives and provide for their families and have just fulfilling lives in the places that they're called home. So that's kind of like what we're dealing with right now.
Yeah.
There are other things that they have proposed, right? Like they want to get rid of TPS, temporary protected status, which I
Mm.
have myself had in the past as a protection from deportation. DACA is a big one that has been challenged in the court, that administration.
Can you kind of
Um,
explain what DACA is too? Because I feel like a lot of people who aren't really in tune with this kind of stuff don't really know what DACA stands for.
Yeah, so DACA is essentially a program that was implemented during the Obama administration that
Mm.
gave protection from deportation to a lot of children out there that
Yeah.
came to the US undocumented when they were children.
Hmm.
Most of these kids were, 2 years old, like 3 years old, like
Right.
really young when they came.
Yeah.
And they have been here their entire lives. Like they don't really know anything else at this point. This is their home.
Hmm.
And DACA's been essentially like this life-saving program that has allowed them to like work, being able to go to school, and just live normal lives without
Yeah.
the fear of like deportation every day. And this is a critical program that the incoming President Trump and people around him have been really explicit about getting rid of.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it's been going through the courts for quite some time, most
Yeah.
recently in the Circuit Courts of Appeals, and we're still waiting on a decision on that, court challenge. So this is also unfolding in real time. There are other programs similar to DACA that the Biden administration implemented, like the humanitarian parole program,
Yeah.
that allow a lot of people to essentially have the same right to work and live and thrive without the fear of deportation here in the U.S. They're trying to get rid of those through executive order, and other things like getting rid of birthright citizenship, for instance. The right that essentially give a lot of people the ability to vote and be citizens and live normal lives. They are really trying to come after that as well. And so what we're seeing is just a huge anti-immigrant advance against our communities, our basic human rights, and against the people we love the most, who are also part of every single American community that we can think of, right?
Right.
So I think this is what we're dealing with, and I think a lot of people just don't understand the magnitude of what their plans are. But it's important for us to make sure that people understand what their rights are,
Yeah.
and make sure that our allies and the people in our communities organize so we can fight back and keep each other safe.
Right. No, I mean, I think that's beautiful. I mean, it definitely kind of sucks because I feel like a lot of people like that aren't really directly affected by a lot of these things just don't really know what to look out for. You know what I mean? And I think that's why it's so important to have these conversations because, especially like in this community, I feel like there's a lot to learn, and that kind of brings you to that brings you. Sorry, I can't speak. That brings you to my next question, which is like, what would you say? Because there is a lot of people, from what I've seen, that are kind of saying that like, oh, don't worry about Trump, like he's not gonna do anything, like he's gonna be like a nothing burger in the office. What do you say to people that like don't think he's as radical as he appears, and like people that don't think he'll actually carry out these things such as like mass deportations?
Yeah, I mean, like, I think like it's important to just like honestly just take Trump at his word.
Yeah.
He's done it before, and he plans to do it even more this time, right? Like he's gonna have a trifecta this time, which he didn't have last time. So
Right.
the amount of things that he will be able to do are way greater and horrific than the last time around. And again, like I feel that the last you know, year or so, they have been really trying to distance themselves from Project 2025 and the horrific things that are on that memo.
Yeah.
But when you look at his choices, picking his own cabinet, right? He
Hmm.
chooses Tom Homan as ICE, border czar,
Right.
whatever that means.
Yeah.
He chooses Stephen Miller as deputy chief of staff for policy. These two people are quite literally the architects of Project
Right.
2025.
Exactly.
They have written extensively about going after people in the places where they exist,
Right.
making sure that ICE is able to conduct raids in places like hospitals, churches, work sites, social service centers. Right? There is
Right.
something called a sensitive zone memo, which ICE has been used recently, essentially preventing ICE from doing raids in these places because they're considered to be, sensitive zones where community exists.
Right.
They are trying to get rid of that sort of like guideline
Hmm.
that ICE has had the past few years, and now they're directly targeting our people in the places where we exist, thrive, live, and even like make money to put food on the table and provide for our families. And
Right.
so this is what we're dealing with, and this is kind of like the magnitude of the people that Trump is surrounding himself. He's already signaling what he's trying to do. And let's not forget that both Tom Homan and Stephen Miller are behind some of the most horrific policies enacted during the first Trump administration.
Yeah.
Think of the Muslim ban. Think of the family
Crazy.
separation policy that
Right.
separated like hundreds of thousands of kids at the border from their families. Think of Title 42, which effectively dismantled the right to asylum at the border, right? A human and international recognized right that everybody has. And so, we're not like playing around
Right.
when we say that these people unfortunately mean business. But what that means for us is that we also have to have a response from our community and from our allies to make sure that we meet this challenge with community and with love, honestly, for the people
Right.
around us that we know that will be impacted by this.
Yeah, I mean, like just really like a humanity. You know what I mean? I feel like people kind of forget that like there was literally children in cages at one point
Right.
in Trump's presidency last time, and like I think people are just kind of quick to forget. And again, I mean, I think it's because a lot of people aren't really affected, or not a lot of people. Sorry, well, the people who aren't affected by it just don't really like see it happening, and it just sucks. Like it really does suck. I remember seeing that stuff when I mean like a few years ago, and it's not like things got better at the border or like anywhere else for immigrants, in the last 4 years either. So it's like
Right.
I don't know, like it's just tough because it's like you said, like this situation needs to be handled with a lot of humanity, love, and care, and again, like that's why I think this conversation is important. And I keep hearing you bring up community and how allies can help. And I mean, my chat especially definitely wants to know ways to help. So how would you suggest we can fight the good fight, and what allies can do to be in the know, and how they can stand up for people that are affected by this?
Yeah, I think like couple of things, right? The
Hmm.
first thing is acknowledging that we have been here before,
Right.
right? We know what this means, and we know what we're capable of doing when we like work together
Right.
to keep each other safe. As allies, honestly, we have a lot of power to be able to take like bold public stances in protecting immigrants.
Yeah.
So, and here's the thing, right? Like, and this is something that most people don't understand because when Trump says things like like they're gonna like deport all these people are like, yeah, like all these like abstract people that we don't know.
Yeah.
Wrong. Right? Like everybody knows someone that is undocumented, even if
Yep.
they don't know that it's undocumented.
That's so
Like,
true.
everybody went to like high school with someone that is undocumented, like their middle school friend who is undocumented, like their classmate in college, or their coworker, or their neighbor, or even like the guy that works at the local bodega. Like these like people know them in their day to day, and they assume that they're just like anybody else, but they are probably under DACA, temporary protected status. They're fully documented. People just don't know it, right? And so the question that I think most people should be asking themselves is, if we're students in college right now, how are we pushing our school administration to have protections in place for immigrant students? How are we making sure that our campuses do not work with ICE or allow agents on our school grounds, right? If we're someone who has a job right now, right, how are we pushing our workplaces to have protections in place too? We have heard Trump and Tom Homan's promises to go and do raids in like work sites, right? Which so like, is crazy. How are we having and engaging in those difficult conversations with our employers to ensure that every single person in that workplace is protected? And even beyond that, like even beyond like just your core community, what are we doing to engage with our local and state elected officials, right? How are we engaging and putting pressure on our mayoral offices and our governor offices and our, city council reps and our members of Congress, right? Like we have a lot of power as constituents as well in our communities. So we also should be putting pressure to and on the people, that work closest to our communities, like the city council members, the mayors, the governors, the like state reps, state senators, right? We have a lot of power, and we have seen some governors already start to do this, like the governor in New Jersey. But we need to make sure that every single state puts protections in place, that they do not cooperate with ICE, and that we protect our people in the communities and the spaces where we exist, and try to have fulfilling lives in the places where we exist.
Yeah, I mean, like I say this a lot too when I'm streaming. I feel like people really like, you're allowed to put pressure on like government officials, stuff like that, in a positive way. You know what I'm saying? Like I feel like a lot of times we see in the media, like a lot of people putting pressure on, like their local, offices and stuff. And it's like really like just not great messaging. You know what I mean? But like, they're not the only people that can do that. You know what I mean? Like we can also like, I mean, like freedom of speech, it goes both ways. You know what I mean? So it's like, I think a lot of people need to kind of like realize that they don't need to be afraid to like speak up for what they believe in, and with that being said, like what are some like, I guess more in-depth ways that like people can like how can they look out, you know what I mean? Like where can they go to, because I feel like it's really easy for me to say like, yo chat, like, or yo, anyone hearing this, watching this later in the future, whatever, like speak out, do XYZ, but like where do you start? You know what I mean? Like where do you start and where do you go, if that makes any sense? Sorry.
No, I mean that's why we're here, right? Well, I think like the easiest thing that I will obviously plug for everyone is to get involved, join organizations like United We Dream. We're a huge network of immigrant communities, youth-led, everywhere, that can provide resources, organize together, come up with solutions together, and protect each other together, right? Like, you can like do this by texting unafraid to 78757, to click the link in the chat, to visit our website, unitedwedream.org. These are the ways where you start. Wait, 1 second.
Can you say, so it's unafraid, and then what's the number?
78757.
78757. I'm gonna pin that in the chat, just so people can, if they want to learn more right now, they can text that number. Chat, I'm gonna pin this. All right, sorry, keep going. Sorry about that.
No, all good. I think like this is essentially what we need to do. We need to make sure that we get involved with organizations closest to the ground and closest to the people, especially for allies, right? Like I'm sure there's a lot of allies out there kind of listening to this or learning about this for the first time.
Yeah, for sure.
we need allies right now, because when institutions fail you, you turn to community, and our community is both directly impacted, but also the people around us, right?
Yeah.
And so like, it's going to be really important for allies to also get involved, to fight for immigrant communities that are also your community. Because I think something that is really important is that, to make sure that people understand that this is not a immigrant community versus non-immigrant community issue. This is a whole community issue.
Yeah, this is an everybody thing.
Because we're everywhere, right? Like, again, like you might not know that your doctor or your nurse or your neighbor
or even your family members. I mean, sometimes it's not even, I mean, like sometimes if someone is undocumented, they like your own family won't even really speak about it, because it's not even like, it's like, well, one, it's protection, but two, it's like, again, like it doesn't really come up in conversation. You know what I mean? So like you be surprised how many of your own family probably is undocumented and like under protection and stuff that they're trying to get rid of.
Yeah, it's literally people we know, people that we interact with on our daily basis, people in our communities. When you go out there and like try to go to the local shop or get on the bus or whatever, like these are people that these are like people that were everywhere. I mean, for us at least, as directly impacted, these are the people we love as well.
Yeah.
These are I'm here fighting for my friends. I'm here fighting for my family members. I'm here fighting for myself. I'm here fighting for the people that I've gotten to know and love for so long.
Right.
That have also been a community for me here in the U.S. And so it's just important for us to make sure that we don't distance this issue from real people, because at the end of the day, this is what's at stake. It's about families. It's about make sure that families stay together and they're not separated unjustly, and make sure that people just have the right to live without fear in their own homes, right? Like when we talk about DACA recipients, right? They have been here their whole lives. These are their homes. People should be able to stay in their homes and be able to live and thrive with dignity and respect without the fear of deportation and the fear of having to hug their loved ones one last time, right? And so this is what we're fighting for. This is at the core of the issue. We can get fancy with the policies and whatnot and like the tactics and the strategies, but at the core of this is just real people with real lives that are just trying to have, a dignified life with the people that they love.
Yeah, no, for sure. And that kind of like I kind of want to bring it to like my next question here, because we're talking about like being united and stuff, and I feel like the Latino vote for Trump this election was actually pretty interesting, right? I mean, we saw like record highs, and so I kind of wanted to ask, how do you think his messaging this time around was more effective and more polarizing in Latino communities? Like, because it just kind of feels really backwards, and I think that's kind of what really kind of messed me up. And I mean, like that was a really big topic of discussion for my chat as well on election night. Is like how did that happen? Like what happened? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean that's the $1 million question that we all have been trying to figure out. I personally spent a lot of time trying to think through these, talking also with even like my own family members who are also immigrants, by the way,
right?
Who in some way supported Trump,
right?
And people that are quite literally supporting anti-immigrant policies that go against the people they love and care about in their own communities. So the question is like, how is that possible? And I think there are like a couple of things to this question. I would say the first one is targeted disinformation, right?
Right.
There is a well-funded disinformation machine designed to target Latinos, and in particular young Latino men, actually, in the places that exist. Places like this, honestly, Twitch, Discord, YouTube, podcasts, right? And this disinformation is designed to dehumanize the people in their own communities. Because, when you call your neighbors that have been undocumented for decades criminals, when you call asylum seekers fleeing from violence and persecution invaders, what you're doing is justifying the dehumanizing acts, mass deporting people and separating families, because you're dehumanizing the people in your own communities.
Yep.
And so it's as simple as, if you give good people bad information, they will do bad things. They will make bad choices.
Right.
And I think a lot of that is, the anti-immigrant movement was able to learn this early on and capitalize on entering spaces that other people and organizers haven't. And that's why I'm here as an organizer that is trying to galvanize our allies and make sure that we keep each other safe. This is why I'm here. I'm trying to reach out to people in spaces where traditional organizers usually don't go, because again, when institutions fail you, we turn to community, and our community is you guys. It's our community. It's everybody who is willing to support our movement and keep people in our community safe, because again, these are people that we know, these are people that we love, and these are people just like you guys that have normal lives and just trying to live with dignity and respect.
Yeah, I think, absolutely.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh no, okay. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I just kind of wanted to add too. I feel like a lot of people don't realize the power of what you said, the targeted misinformation. Because I mean, again, like it's like he said. I mean, like there were some immigrant. Like he had a family who are also immigrants that they even supported Trump. And I mean, I feel like a big reason for that is, Chad, for those who don't know, it's like the model minority mindset of like, oh, well, he's not talking about me. You know what I mean? Not realizing that these policies are going to directly target them. You know what I mean? Like it's going to be an issue for them, because in the eyes of these people that are in power, we're all the same. You know what I mean? So it's like, a lot of people think that they won't be affected because they aren't what is being said. So then they elect these people, and then they realize, oh, like OMG, they were talking about me and my family and my loved ones and my community and XYZ. So again, like it's really important for y'all to hear that and understand that like that is the biggest, like, well, one of the biggest issues with like media today is the targeted information. Like they know, based off your algorithms, all this stuff, what to say to you to make you vote a certain way, to make you think a certain way, to make you, to scare you a certain way. And that's really important. I just want to reiterate that for people.
Yeah, and I think like this is why we all play a role also in our own like media ecosystems.
Yeah.
Because the way to counteract and combat disinformation is with good information. Right. So what we need to do is flood all online spaces, all online communities, like here, like on Twitch, right?
Right.
With good information about immigrants, good information about what's coming next, good information and reliable information as a way to combat, these issues. And, we are all a trusted messenger in our own communities. So we have sort of like the duty and responsibility to share good information with people that we love and care about, to make sure that we also are protecting people in our close networks from that disinformation. And, to your question about, what was different this time, I also think that, on the other side, there was just like a lack of good economic messaging that really did a disservice for our communities. I think it seemed like for a long time that it was anti-immigrant politicians fighting against people trying to protect democracy.
Right.
But the problem is that people don't eat democracy, right? Like most working class Latino families and immigrant families just don't have the privilege to care deeply about democracy because they're too focused putting food on the table, right? And so like we need to make sure that when we talk to people across the spectrum, when we talk to people in our communities, we message the fact that this will affect all of us. It will affect our families, it will affect our neighbors, it will affect our local businesses, because at the end of the day, the economy is people. And we are people, and we are, all of us, the ones that are behind, the economy moving and going. And I think it's really important that we counteract those narratives with positive immigration narratives about abundance, positive immigration narratives that highlight the fact that there is enough resources for all of us to thrive. And it's just a matter of priorities, which is hurting us at the moment.
Yeah, and kind of to like what you were saying earlier too, because that kind of sparked another question in my head. What would you say to, because like I feel like this is something that I run into a lot, is when I get into these like passionate rants about like being in the know and again like being the reliable person in your community, and again, like teaching people these things, like saying these things out loud to people. I feel like a lot of people will respond to me and say, it's not my responsibility to teach somebody that is being ignorant. You know what I mean? And I feel like that always kind of makes me a little upset, because if we who know do not teach the people who do not know, how will we ever expect any change? And so what would you say to someone who feels like, hey, like I'm on the right side, but it's not my job to teach people who are ignorant? 'Cause I just feel like that needs to be touched on right now.
Yeah, no, I'm glad that you brought that up, because like I said before, we are all trusted messengers in our communities, right? Yeah. In a time when media ecosystems are being flooded and bombarded with anti-immigrant, dehumanizing disinformation out there.
Yeah.
It is almost our duty as allies, as people in our communities, to protect each other from that sort of like dehumanizing language and narrative and rhetoric that is out there.
Right.
So I do think, because again, like these kind of messaging, this kind of disinformation does lead to real violence, right?
Yeah, it does.
It has led to real violence in places like El Paso, Texas, and Buffalo, New York, right? And it's also leading to state violence, right? In places like Texas with SB4, which famously, racially profiles and detains and separates families in that state. Things like Prop 314 in Arizona, and now with the incumbent administration, we're gonna see the systematic state violence and anti-immigrant attacks coming from the federal government. And so these narratives matter. Like, words matter. The way that we refer to our neighbors matter. The way that we talk about each other matter. Because if we let politicians dehumanize our neighbors, then what we're doing is giving them the free way to justify dehumanizing acts on our neighbors. And I think it's really important that we understand that.
Yeah, I mean, like, the way I see it is, if you aren't gonna say something, someone will speak for you, right? I mean, like, you might not think it's your responsibility to say the right message, just to say the right thing, but realize while you're actively not saying the right thing, someone is actively saying the wrong thing. And like the more someone sees the wrong thing, they think it's the right thing, right? And it's like, that topic really hits close to home for me, because I feel like I've never understood how someone can know what someone is saying is wrong and feel like it's not their duty as a human being to fight for those that they don't know. I mean, I've always said, like, when you have these conversations, if you aren't talking for yourself, at least talk for someone who needs it, right? I mean, like, it's like that's just so important. Like, that's what makes the community a community. Like, just because something doesn't affect you directly doesn't mean that you can take a day off from it, right? Or not care as much as something that does that really affect you. So thank you for saying that.
And I think, and if I could like chime in real quickly, I think, like, again, like, it's really easy to just talk about these things in the abstract, like like we're just like debating a subject, right? It's really easy to just feel tempted to just treat it as a policy debate, right? But behind policy, there's real people. And those people are part of our communities. We know those people. For us, it's obviously personal, as direct impact to people, because this policies directly impact us. But this is also gonna impact citizens as well, right? There are so many families out there that live in mixed status families that will be separated if we let this happen, right? There are many people out there that rely on their communities being driven by all of us. People who are contributing and being part of, honestly, the solution of becoming a better place for all of us. And I think the more that we're able to articulate the fact that this is not an immigrant versus not immigrant issue, but this is like an issue that will impact all of us, the better we will be able to galvanize our allies and fight and push back against these attacks.
Right, exactly. And again, like, Chad, like, just to say it, because I haven't said this yet. immigrants aren't only Spanish people. You know what I mean? And I feel like people kind of forget that, honestly, because again, like the messaging in the media is very like Spanish heavy. But I mean, like think about what Trump said about Haitian immigrants just earlier this year. You know what I mean? Like it's crazy, the messaging. So just remember that, like, it's not just Spanish people that are affected. I mean, it's every immigrant in America. It's everyone who identifies like that. It's your family. It's your best friend's family. It's all that. So just keep that in mind. You know what I mean? Like don't think that just because you don't think that someone falls under that umbrella. It's like Bitter's been saying. You would be surprised who's in your life that might be undocumented, and their rights are now getting stripped away. And I feel like as minority groups, we know all about that. So again, it's very important that we sit together and it's like he's been saying, get in the know, say the right thing, fight the good fight, man. Be an ally here, right? And chat, if y'all want to start having some questions, please put them in now, and then I'll start relaying them. But one thing I kind of want to say too, so let's say that these things go through, right? Like DACA getting repealed and just like everything you've been saying, like how will, if 2025, or sorry, if Part 2025 kind of gets its way, how would it directly affect our communities, like our neighbors, our families, our friends, our like people in our lives? Like what will that look like if these things do go through?
I think like if we let this happen, people need to understand that we will feel it everywhere in our daily lives, right? We'll feel it when the local bodega shuts down, right? Because
we gotta find a new doctor because he's not there anymore. Like,
correct. We'll feel it when ICE raids our workplaces.
Right.
When companies go under because too many workers and customers are gone. Right, in our local communities. We'll actually feel it. Speaking of like economic message, right? Like we'll feel it when home and food prices go even higher because there are not enough construction workers and farm workers to keep up supply, right? Like this is something that we will feel. Again, it's not an immigrant versus immigrant issue or a non-immigrant issue. It's an issue for all of us. We'll all feel the impact. And I think like obviously the most obvious one, which is the one that obviously we care the most about, is the fact that we will have to feel it when we give someone one last hug because they're getting deported. Someone that we know, someone we didn't even know that was undocumented, right? When we have to hug our loved ones one last time because of these mass deportations. People will feel this pain if we let it happen. And I think the message that I want to leave for everybody here is that we don't have to just sit back and watch it happen, right? We obviously need to sound the alarm and come together to protect each other. By organizing and building strong community bonds, we can support one another and shield our communities from the worst. Together we can do it, and we can defend each other and demand a different path forward by doing the things that I mentioned before, right? Protecting people in our classroom, protecting people in our jobs, calling our state and local officials to put pressure on them. So there's something that needs to be done to protect these people. And the message here is like, this is not set in stone. Like we can do something about it. Because again, when institutions fail you, we turn to community and we organize, and this is why we're here, and this is why we're leading the way in fighting back and galvanizing our allies to make sure we protect each other.
Yeah, I mean, again, like even to your point, like that's why things like like UWDA and UWD are so important, because chat, like if you're wondering what the next step should be, literally your next step, if everything that has been said today strikes a chord with you and you relate to it and you want to do more, your next step is to go to is to text that number right there, unafraid, all that, and like really just kind of learn the next steps and be in the know, because that is like, now like things that are being said and how it makes you feel. And so the next step is literally to go to these places that Victor's talking about, like these communities and literally being in them. You know what I'm saying? Like being in them and like going from there. Like there's stepping stones, and that's your next one. You know, so just keep that in mind. So Vic, there is one question in the chat that I'm gonna read word for word. It's a little long, but just hear me out. They said, question: how should the younger generations try and give the older generations hope, since they are the ones still running the government? Younger generations can try to spread awareness to each other all they want, but unfortunately, the older generations still run the country and affect everything. So that's a pretty good question. So I guess they're saying like, how, like, what can the younger generation do to really kind of give the same spark that we feel to the older generation of people?
Yeah, I think like we actually, again, because we're a network of like a youth-led network of direct impacted people, we have to deal with this issue a lot. You know, I've personally had a lot of heated conversations,
right,
with members of my own family, members who have, you know, without giving it too much thought, supported anti-immigrant policies that affect me directly and affect other people in my community directly.
Right.
So these conversations are hard, y'all. Like, I'm not gonna lie. We have put resources out there. If you go visit UnitedWeDream.org, right, and you check out our resources, the most recent one that we put out there was a guide to talk to your family members during Thanksgiving break and during the holidays, right?
Yeah, and we need that.
These conversations are really hard, because you have to start from a place of empathy. In a way, you have to understand where they're coming from and trying to see what the real fears are, because most of the disinformation is targeting real fears that they have,
right?
Like real feelings of scarcity and being left behind, right? And so, because we love them, we should not. Let me just start by saying that we should not have to defend our humanity with anybody, right?
Right.
That's the thing. But these are people that we love. These are like our parents, our aunts, right? Because we love them, I think given the space to try to understand what the sort of like inception of the fear is, like where it's coming from, and then from there process that conflict. I think a lot of people try to argue with stats, try to argue with all these kind of things. We make it personal because it is personal to us. No one could argue with your stories, right? So always trying to ground it to the real people around us. And if you know someone that is directly impacted, if you are directly impacted yourself, these are the most powerful conversations because they can argue with stats, but they can't argue with your story. So having these conversations are really important to like change, you know, their hearts and minds in the long term. But also, I will just like finish by saying that young people have immense power moving forward. Like, we are not waiting for anybody to save us. We'll save ourselves. And you know, in the next 2 to 4 years, like, young people will become one of the largest majorities that we have ever seen. And with that majority, we have the power to build the future that we want. And you know, it might seem far right now given everything that's happening,
right?
But we will make it happen. We just need to stay organized. We'll need to stay together and make sure that our allies are always there fighting for each other's rights and, you know, having each other's backs.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think when you said, you know, like they can fight stats, but they can't fight your story. I mean, that's so true. I literally feel like every single tough conversation I've ever had, the moment someone brings up their experience, they're like, okay, well, that's like there's no response, you know, because again, like the numbers aren't human. You know, it's very hard to tell someone no, you're wrong when they're sharing something that happened to them that's traumatizing, you know, and that's really important. And Chad, that also kind of you know, kind of brings it back to what I said earlier, where it's like, again, if like he just said that, you know, like this last Thanksgiving, literally, Victor, people in my chat were like, I don't know what to say at Thanksgiving. So imagine if y'all were in these communities, like, you know, like UWD, and you had that little guide, bro. Like, I'm telling y'all, like the next step for y'all is to be a part of these communities. And again, like just you know, like ask questions on your own time, you know, like seek information on your own time. Like that is the next step. So again, like Victor, can you say that number one more time, and where to text it, or how to do it? Sorry.
Yeah, so 78757. And also just going to our website, unitedwedream.org. There you have all the information to kind of like get plugged in, join, take action, be part of our list. We always are, you know, increasing pressure on our elected officials, and, you know, just giving resources people to people to know the rights.
Yeah.
Giving resources to people to know what to do in case something does happen.
Right.
Giving resources to people to organize. And again, like, we are a network, and our power is in the power of people. And the more people we have with us, the more power we have to push back and fight back against these attacks. And so I can't stress that enough. There are many organizations that are doing a great job at protecting our communities. And I think like my sort of like call to action to the allies out there that want to fight back is to join community spaces like United We Dream.
Yep.
Protect people that are directly impacted. And if you are directly impacted by these things, or you know someone that is directly impacted as well, then this is a home for you, where we will fight for you, we'll keep you, and we'll make sure that no attack will reach you and your family, because we are together in this. And where, again, institutions fail you, we turn to community, and we are the community that we need.
Absolutely. Literally beautifully said. So there's some more questions here from chat, and, you know, like, again, like, answer them however you see fit, right? Because you know, everyone's heart is in the right place. You know what I mean? So this one right here says, this is from Woofers. They say, for the population of people who are heavily uneducated, what is the best way to educate them and in a way show them the reality of what's happening to in our country, or sorry, to our country? So kind of like what we talked about earlier, where it's like, when you're in the know, like, well, like what's the steps to really take to kind of like, you know, again, like say the right thing, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, like, you know, a couple of things to this. The first thing is, you know, trying to understand the real fears that some people have.
Yeah.
Because again, like, this information works because it really hits home for a lot of people. It really presses like certain buttons, because some people are genuinely scared and they're trying to find an easy scapegoat. And anti-immigrant politicians are really good at scapegoating,
at pointing the finger.
Correct. And I think like one thing that it's usually helpful is exposing the tactic. Right. You know, why they're doing this, right? Saying things like, you know, these anti-immigrant politicians are doing this as a scare tactic to gain power. It already opens a lot of people's eyes. But I would also say that a big part of this is making sure that we connect their realities with what's happening. A lot of people feel that this is really far away from their reality. And I guess the point that I'm trying to make here is that it isn't. That it will impact every single community, no matter where you are, right? They will notice it when their local bodega shuts down, right? They will notice it when the people they know in their own communities that they've known for years now have to leave. They will notice it when they might have to give a one last hug to someone they know that they didn't even know was undocumented. They will notice it also. A lot of people, you know, supported anti-immigrant politicians because of the economic hardship that is legitimate in a lot of places. But we have to understand that this is just going to make those pains worse, right? And everybody will suffer because of it. And I think like grounding the conversation in that sense is going to be really important, because it's not, again, an immigrant versus non-immigrant issue. This will impact all of us. And the more that we can connect the dots for them and make sure that we sort of like articulate the fact that these mass deportations plans and these anti-immigrant attacks will also impact them and the people they love and their communities and the people around them, the better position we are to make the case for them. But always from a place for love. I think like we at United We Dream organize from a place of love and not fear or hate, right? We love our communities and that's why we organize. And even the people in our own families that are a little confused by what's happening, we organize them from a place of love and not a place of hate. And it's incredibly transforming once you embrace sort of like that organizing strategy.
Yeah.
Again, we're not negotiating our humanity. We're not having to explain our humanity to anybody, but rather we're anchoring the conversation around our own stories and the real people behind it.
Right. And I mean, again, just to go back to what you said, like I think people kind of underestimate the power of some of these political ads, right, that play on TV. I mean, these things are handcrafted by professionals who study this kind of stuff to scare people in the direction they want them to go. And so like before you think to yourself, how could anyone believe this? Like, this is ridiculous, blah blah blah. Just remember that not everyone is as in the know as you are. You know what I mean? Like not everyone is as aware as you are. Like a lot of people in normal day-to-day life, like they go work their 9 to 5, they're underpaid, they're underappreciated, they come home, they're watching their sports, and then boom, there's like 16 million ads that pop up, freaking them out. You know what I mean? And like it's really easy for people to get really like crossed up and scared. You know what I mean? And to like people who are uneducated are usually the ones that are the most terrified of this kind of stuff, and like that messaging stuff like that. So just keep that in mind whenever it comes to having empathy and a little bit more understanding for these people, because most of the time their hearts are like their hearts aren't in the right place, but they can get there. You know what I mean? If you just take a moment to understand that not everyone is you.
Yeah, and I think like again, like we are trusted messengers in our own communities.
Right.
There are gonna be people that are honestly lost causes.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
I don't think we should waste our time on people who genuinely don't see you as full human beings.
Exactly.
But I think there is something to do with the people that know us personally, with the people in our own communities, with the people like I was having a conversation with my aunt who for many reasons voted with a lot of fear in their heart. Right. And voted against our own communities. And I love my aunt to death, and right. I will keep making sure that she understands like how personal this is. Right. I won't negotiate my humanity, but it's also someone that is part of my inner family. It's someone that is part of my network. It's someone that is part of my community.
Someone you don't want to give up on.
Exactly. So like there are people in our communities that we can organize for the best. And I think, like I said before, a lot of it has to do with this information. You give bad information to good people, they make bad choices. Right. So it is our sort of like duty as people in their own inner circles to be the ones flooding them with good information out there, because right. we don't want them to dehumanize themselves and the people they love either. Like we want to fight the dehumanization because we don't want politicians to get in their heads, and we don't want politicians to tell them who is human and who isn't. And so I think that's at the core of the issue, because we are those trusted messengers that we need, and we all play a role in that.
Right. No, absolutely. And again, like I see someone in the chat that just said that they feel like both sides of the argument paint each other as a villain, and I couldn't disagree more, because I feel like and Victor, like if you have something to add, you can. I just want to say this in response to this message. I feel like that's not really a fair thing to say, because again, like you're kind of just actively saying that it's not really the messaging, it's the people. And it's like, I disagree, because there's one side who uses buzzwords like illegal and criminal and scary, like I mean, like all types of words to make you think that these people are not human. And it's like it's really it's not really fair to say, oh well both sides of the argument paint each other as villains whenever one person is fighting for humanity and the other person is not, you know. So I don't think that's really fair to say. But also that kind of brings me into the next question, where this person says, how many generations of immigrants do you think this will affect? So meaning, like, will it affect the grandmothers and grandfathers and, you know, great grandmas and even like the babies now, right? Like how, like who will, like how many generations will this stretch back, if that makes any sense?
If we let it happen, it will affect all of them.
Exactly.
Again, because of the main reason that this is not a undocumented versus documented issue or
Exactly.
immigrant versus non-immigrant issue. Most immigrants lived in mixed status families.
Exactly.
So we're talking about separating families, regardless of your status. And we have someone like Tom Homan, who was appointed as border czar, who recently on an interview went on record saying, you know, we can just deport families together if they don't want to be separated.
Which is ridiculous.
Right? It's ridiculous. And this is the kind of people that we're dealing with. And so it will affect every immigrant community, because we also are part of those communities that will get targeted, that will get militarized, that will get racially profiled. And so we have to stop seeing each other as different. We're all members of our communities.
Yeah.
We're all people who live, besides each other. And I think like this is the time where we keep each other safe and show up for the people around us. And so, like, to answer the question, it's gonna impact every single person in our communities.
Every single generation of immigrant will be affected.
Yes, absolutely. Because, you know, like that grandmother that maybe like was able to, normalize her status, still has probably someone on DACA in their family or a TPS, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Or a neighbor or someone they know. It's happened too that some people, don't even know it, but their status is actually not completely normalized either. Like everybody is subject to these attacks because when they attacked our community, they come after all of us. And so it will impact everybody. It will impact real families out there. And it is our job to make sure that people understand what's at stake, but also to organize them so we keep each other safe. But, you know, the first step is to make sure that people understand what's at stake. So then the next step is to organize them and take action.
Absolutely. And I kind of want to, again, like a question sparked up in my mind again. Because again, like we keep talking about like defending humanity and, you know, like appealing to empathy. So like, what is a way, like, let's say someone's hearing this and they are not an immigrant, they don't have an immigrant, and like their family is anti-immigrant because again, like they don't, like their family doesn't really give like care, right? Right. What is a way that someone who's experiencing that could put it into their shoes? You know what I mean? Like, kind of like give a scenario of like, hey, okay, well, imagine if you were just at work and then your grandma, like, you know, like came to this country. You had no idea that you weren't born here. All of a sudden you're getting deported, you know, like not even knowing that you did something quote unquote wrong. Like, what's a way you could kind of paint a picture to make it more, you know, like empathetic, if that makes sense?
Yeah, like I said before, like people can argue against your story. Right. I think people try to throw stats around, but at the end of the day, this is personal.
Yeah, exactly.
And so when we talk about the people in our communities, there is really not much that people can say about it. I think it's about understanding what these tactics are behind what they're doing. Because I think a lot of people don't have any real experience with populism, right? This kind of populism we're seeing it's just a way to divide and conquer and get their way. Right. And disinformation, dehumanizing disinformation, is a tactic for them to do that, to scapegoat people in our own communities and to go after them and capture power that way. And so having those real conversations with people is going to be extremely important. And again, to my earlier point, making sure that people understand that this is not separated from that. It's not like there is like an immigrant community and a non-immigrant community. We're all communities that are all intertwined and the same, right? And like we'll feel the pain when the local businesses have a hard time because they don't have enough workers and consumers buying their products, and we'll see it when families start getting separated, when we see militarization in the streets, when we see people that we knew having to either self-deport or like being forcefully removed from their own homes. And if we wouldn't support it with the people we know, then we wouldn't support it with anybody, right? And so like making sure that that message hits home, that this is people that have been here for years, people that deserve to live with dignity and respect with their families, and making sure that they understand that this is a issue that would impact everybody. And I think that's honestly what I would say. Just try to make sure that it hits home.
Yeah, no, I mean, absolutely. And again, I mean, you weren't really realizing, Chet, until these safe spaces are no longer safe, right? I mean, it's like, like you have churches getting raided, you have, schools getting raided, all this stuff, like, and it will happen. Like, it's not something that is like that far off, like depending on how we, depending on what our next steps are as a community, right? I mean, like this kind of thing, like you don't think it'll happen because we're in America and like blah blah blah. But these things, I mean, again, like I never thought children would be stuffed in cages at the border until it happened. Like these are things that kind of sneak up on you if you don't pay avid attention to them. And again, apply that pressure onto your local officials and all that. I mean, these are real issues, y'all. Like, these are real issues, and we have to be aware of the progress that is happening at. And would you say this is happening at a fast rate, or like how much time do we have left before we really start to see these really negative policies and scary policies kind of take into effect?
We are already seeing them. Right. That's kind of like the scary part. We have been seeing them in places like Texas, in Arizona, in Oklahoma, in Florida. We have been seeing these policies being implemented at the state and local level. They have been really focusing for the past year and a half or so on setting up the infrastructure for these mass organizations to happen. Now it actually is going to be way easier for them to do it in the states that already have that infrastructure, but they will try to make sure this is a national sort of like policy that will go against our families. And so it's already happening. It's already happening. Yeah. People in Texas are already being racially profiled and detained just under the suspicions of looking undocumented, right? Whatever that looks to you, right? So like the racial profiling, the mass deportations, and the family separations, these are all already happening. They're just trying to take them to the next level. We have already seen them in the past. We saw them 4 years ago during the Trump administration. Our communities are familiar with the pain, but we know that this time is a little different in the sense that they will try to go even farther. And so we were able to successfully fight and block many of the most horrific things that happened the first time during the first Trump administration. But this time we are more seasoned. We are faster at responding. We know how to keep each other safe. And our ask is just people to take action, to join United We Dream, to go to our website, to follow us on social media, to join our list, to text unafraid to 78757, all the CTAs that I have for you. So you are involved and you understand what the resources are, what the rights are, and the things that we will be doing to keep each other safe. And again, like, these are people that you all also know. These are people that if you're not directly impacted, you probably have a family member, a friend, a person in the community that you know that it's probably really scared right now, and it's our sort of role as allies to make sure that they feel that they're not alone, because they're not.
No, absolutely. And I mean, again, Chad, like these aren't criminals, right? These are cooks, these are doctors, these are teachers, these are family members. Like that's who we're discussing. And on top of that, I see a question in chat that I kind of want to ask you and kind of get your thoughts on, because I think it's pretty interesting and it would kind of help people understand. So someone in my chat named Mick says, I've always been curious about the immigration process. Why does America put so much emphasis on documented or undocumented?
Love that question.
Yeah, that's a great question.
Obviously, I love that was the kind of question that I got all the time. Even when I speak to people like outside of these like audiences, because these are the kind of the real questions that we need to be asking.
Yeah, no, really.
Look, I'm gonna be like super blunt. The fastest way to quote unquote fix the issue with undocumented people is to document them. Migration is a natural and beautiful thing that have always happened because we believe in freedom of movement. We believe in people to be able to pursue their lives and their dreams in the places where they want to call home. These are also people that in many cases, including myself, like fled really horrific situations in their home countries. And I think, you know, the real, if we're talking policy, right, like the real policy solution here is just expanding humane pathways.
Exactly.
For people, expanding humane pathways for people to become citizens. And this is not a crazy idea. It has been done in the past. The more that you try to restrict, the worse the problem gets and the more suffering and pain it causes for people. And it is important to kind of point out the fact that immigration is not a problem, it's the solution to many of the things that we need to be doing to become better and better. And, you know, we have the power to pressure our elected officials to move in that direction. And this is a world that we believe is possible. People were talking about before, you know, what our next generation can do. And this is one of the things that our generation will be able to push. We'll be able to push for a world where everybody is able to live in their own homes without fear of deportation, but also a world with, you know, clean water and clean air, and where people have their basic human rights taken care of. This is all possible. We just need to organize. And the same way that anti-immigrant politicians have been setting up the infrastructure for so long at the local level in Texas and Arizona and now at federal level, we can do the same. This is not out of our reach. We have the people, we have the courage, we have the power. We just need to use it. And I think that's why I'm here today. And this is why I know that all of you are going to be amazing allies moving forward.
Absolutely. I mean, and again, like, even to that point, I just have to say, I don't know if you guys remember this, but this is a while back. Trump had once, like, you know, I mean, even last time that I interviewed my mom, she had talked about how long it takes to become a citizen. And I mean, like, just the process, it takes decades, like, you know, it's forever. And that's kind of what Victor means when he's like more humane pathways into becoming, you know, documented. It's like the process is so difficult, and they make it difficult for a reason. I mean, I think about whenever Trump said we need more, you know, like immigrants from Norway, right, or like Poland and all these things. It's like, there's a reason. I won't say why, but yeah, you can connect the dots. There's a reason why he says things like that. You know, it's not necessarily you know, immigration. It's who's trying to come to this country, and that's really the real issue. I mean, like, he like dog whistling like that is a big reason why things move so slow. And it really sucks. And like that's the harsh reality of it is they make it hard for people who are immigrating, you know, to this country because of where they're coming from, and that's just not right. That's just very wrong. That's just, again, like, it's very inhumane to do that kind of stuff, and that's the harsh reality of it all. And also, there's another question I wanted to kind of add on. Sorry, my stutter is really kicking up today. So Barra says, do you think it's helpful or harmful, the fact that people are trying to leave the country due to Trump getting reelected?
Look, obviously we believe that everybody has the right to choose to do what they need to do in order to keep their family safe, right? Like, in the same way that we believe that people have the right to come to the US looking for a better life and like making the decisions that make the most sense for their families. We believe that people have the right to stay, but they're also a right to leave if they choose to, which is honestly not a radical idea. Like virtually any person that you will talk to will probably say, yeah, people have the right to leave and stay and live in their homes and work and thrive. These are basic things. The problem is that when anti-immigrant politicians try to make it a scare tactic to scapegoat immigrants, then some people do have the right for that and some people don't. And the here thing is that unfortunately there are some directly impacted people that feel very discouraged and feel a lot of hopelessness. I'm here to tell you that we are not there. In fact, we have so much power right now, because now that we have this threat incoming is the time when our allies and the people around us get the most activated. And so this is actually an opportunity for us, because we are about to fight a populist administration that will try and fail to separate our families, and we will succeed in keeping each other safe, because we will be able to reach out to allies in every space and make sure that our colleges are protected, our work sites are protected, our state and local governments are protected. And we will do that because this is the time when we reshape the future that we want, and it's for us to grab, right? Moments of crisis is when people actually stand up and fight for what's right. And this is what we're doing. And this is what's going to happen, because we believe in our communities, in our allies, and in the people that we love in our communities.
No, I mean that's so true. I mean, again, it's kind of you said, like, people who are saying that they want to leave the country and stuff. Like, hey, at the end of the day, if it's for their family safety and stuff, then by all means. But just don't like, we don't run from a fight just because it gets tough. Like, definitely have to stay solid. And again, I mean, like, cause chat, like, if we all run, who will be left standing, bro? Like, we got to stay true and fight, because it's kind of like how you said earlier, like, our generation is not really one to wait to be saved, right? I mean, and that's kind of what gives me hope towards the future. And chat, it's give you hope too, is like, I feel like we are having these conversations very young, and we're not waiting until we're 60 to have these conversations. I mean, these are things that are very important to our generation, and I don't think they were that important to ones prior, unless you were like directly affected. And again, like, as someone who's grown up in a family of immigrants his whole life, right? I've always known about these issues, and I will say, like, being from Oklahoma, these were definitely not things that were talked about, like, ever. And so it's definitely really again, like, even though things are really tough right now, it's really about half glass full. Like, yes, things are hard, yes, it's difficult, but at the end of the day, I mean, think about it, we're having conversations that weren't being had before, and that is a plus, that is a net positive. And it's like, you gotta definitely keep your head up and keep your head high. You know what I mean? Like, don't just think that just because it's hard, then all the progress that we've made and are gonna keep making doesn't mean anything. Like, no, it does. Every small step is still a step forward. So I think that's really important to kind of always remember that.
Yeah, no, facts. Honestly, like we have an advantage also as young people, and is that we have so many more ways of organizing each other that, like, these people in DC don't. I mean, do you think, like, Trump understands Twitch? Absolutely not, right? Like, we actually have more power than you think. We can reach out millions of people instantly with just a click. We can share our stories, flood the information spaces with good information about immigrants and what's happening. We have so much power in our hands. We have so much technology. We have so much things going for us. We just need to use it. We just need to, like, get off the couch and actually turn this allyship and these thoughts and these conversations into real tangible action. And it is possible, because each and one of us has a position in some sort of community where they can serve, right? Like, we have people who are, like, in college right now, talk to, like, college administration to, like, figure out ways in which they can protect undocumented students. If you're like working right now, then talk to your employer to see what are the ways in which they can protect undocumented students, or like undocumented workers or immigrant workers. If you are, in your own community, if you know family and friends are undocumented, talk to them. Let's try to figure out a plan for them. Get them plugged in. United with Dream, UnitedWithDream.org. Trying to drop there, the CA right there. Like there are ways to do it, and because we're such a large network, we have many resources for people and many other people that we could connect you to that will be able to like get us there. And I think that's sort of like the message that I want to like sort of like give to people. We can organize in innovative and creative ways that other people can. Like We're literally on a Twitch stream talking about civil rights. You know what I mean? Like this is not something that used to happen before. We were doing it and we will continue doing it, and we flood the information spaces with this kind of info, and we will use it in our advantage to fight power and to create power for ourselves. And I can't ask for any other community to do it the way that we do it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, again, like, and also young people have an advantage of time, right? I mean, like we have a lot of time, and like Chad, like again, like we got to start these good conversations now so they become the normal conversation when we're 60, 70, right? Like like we keep repeating ourselves, we keep on having these conversations until it's the normal way, or like the normality of society, right? Because that's really how it gets started. Like you say one thing long enough, it sticks, right? So like it's just about being consistent and being persistent, and also, so this is kind of an interesting question, and I kind of want to ask you, and they say that they're asking, this is what they said. It might be a dumb question, but I just want to understand. And so they said, is there ever a time where immigration should be difficult? Meaning like due to history of, terrorism or whatever. And I think it's important that we kind of do answer that question, because I think that is someone who might have heard that negative messaging that is now that it's not heard what we've said, and is like, okay, so I like they want to understand, right? So that's kind of why I want to bring that question up, because I think it's a pretty valid question, especially now, because they're just trying to learn, right?
Yeah, I think like we were talking about before how it's important when we have these like really tough conversations to understand the emotional core of where people are coming from.
Right.
Most people, and I'm saying most people because there are some like really horrible people out there, right? Like I'm not gonna lie, but most people, right, when they are anti-immigrant, on where they have consumed a lot of anti-immigrant information and they become convinced that we have to do things like mass deportation,
right,
they really come from a place of like they feel like a lot of fear, because they're fearful that they are not able to put food on the table, and they are not able to live the quote unquote American dream like the way they used to idealize it, or that they're not able to go up in the economic mobility, or they have no access to clean water or education or healthcare, right? Like these people are scared, and then the right-wing politicians, the anti-immigrant politicians, capitalize on that. They know they're scared, and then they give them an easy scapegoat. In this case, our communities, immigrant communities. And so exposing that tactic, I think it's key, because it applies to everything, right? There are real problems out there, and there are the fear-mongering solutions that politicians have. And I'm going to give you an example, right? Housing, right? During this whole crazy year that we had of like conversations between the parties and stuff, we heard a lot of anti-immigrant politicians essentially saying that their solution to fix housing was to deport immigrants.
Right.
This is insane. This is absolutely crazy, because that's not even the issue. The issue is that there is simply not enough housing, right? And so like, what are we doing to provide more affordable housing? Right? What are we doing to make sure that everybody is be able to be housed? Right. Those are the real solutions to the real problems that a lot of people experience. But then, some people are really scared that they don't have enough like money to pay for rent the last month. And so a right-wing politician, an anti-immigrant politician comes and says that, mass deporting is a solution. They buy it, they believe it, all of a sudden they're anti-immigrant. We just have to actually appeal to the real solutions. And just like talking a little bit more like the housing issue, it's interesting because mass deporting people is actually going to make the problem worse.
Exactly.
Right? Because a lot of our communities, my own uncle is a construction worker, right? And so like the less construction you have, the higher the prices are going to go up. So just kind of like putting in context that these are just tactics. So when people have these like real fears about like, quote unquote national security and whatever, like it's important to understand and explain to them these are just tactics. They're just scapegoating and dehumanizing a group of people. This is where it's at, and then point the way. And I think immigrant youth and young people of color and young people in general are really freaking cool right now and really great at pointing the way, because we know exactly what we want. We're like, look, dude, like I don't care about this. All we want is basic rights, an economy that works for everybody, a place where everybody can live with dignity and respect without being deported and fearful of being separated from their families, and a place where everybody can get access to basic things like education, healthcare, and like free air to breathe. Like these are basic things, but I think like our generation has very like has a lot of moral clarity in this. And I know it doesn't seem like it right now because we lost the election and like there's all the things happening, but in reality we are a lot of like it's a lot of us. We have a lot of people on our side, and we just need to make sure to again get people off the couch,
exactly,
on the streets and organizing and like going to the spaces where we need to be at.
Sorry, I was in a very intense fight just now. And I just kind of want to add on to that as well, because I kind of have a perspective, and if I start to kind of trail the path, please get me back on it. But pretty much this person is saying immigration, there's no correlation to that in like terrorism, which I just want to say, of course not, right? I mean, like it's kind of how Victor's saying, like you might have kind of not I don't want to say took the bait, but you might have fallen victim to some propaganda yourself, which again like happens to everybody, right? And I just want to say like imagine your teacher, or like someone that no let's just say teacher, like imagine you have a teacher and they're like, hey, I had a terrible class 25 years ago, that now I'm gonna whole like now based off that class 25 years ago, I'm gonna go tell the whole school how scared they should be of this class. It's like, what? Like it generally makes no sense how they again like lump everyone in. It's just a dehumanizing tactic. When you hear these like extremely negative stories about immigrations or people from other country, whatever, just realize that like that is a scare tactic to again dehumanize and freak you out. And also understand that for every one negative story that you might hear, there's thousands of positive ones that you aren't hearing, right? Because those aren't getting picked up by mainstream media, which is exactly why it's very important to not only get your news from the mainstream cycle of media, and it's important to be a part of these clubs and groups like UWD and all these things, and not just get your daily bread from Fox or like all these other mainstream news outlets. It's very important that you are aware that fear mongering is a daily thing, especially in America. Like it is a daily thing, and so no, there is no direct correlation to anything negative. That is a scare tactic to push you a certain way. Remember that.
Yeah, and I would just like close that thought just by saying that in a highly politicized environment, it's just really easy to lose sight of real people.
Exactly.
And these concepts, these ideas, these conversations actually relate back to people on the ground. And I'm an organizer. I've become over the years sort of like a hard materialist in that sense. Like I really just look at, material conditions on the ground and what's happening to real people in real time. And I've seen how these anti-immigrant narratives that come from places like national security or like even like economics or like just straight up white nationalism, because that's honestly what it is.
Yeah, absolutely.
It does affect real people. It separates families. The pain is real. It makes people live with fear. That pain is real. It makes people not being able to access life-saving care for their families when they're sick. That pain is real. It makes people not being able to pursue higher education. That pain is real. It makes people not being able to go to school and be able to work legally. That pain is real, right? And I think like it's really easy to frame the conversation in many ways. When in reality, what we have seen is that anti-immigrant politicians use state violence to criminalize and target the people we know. These are our cousins, our aunts, our tios,
Absolutely.
our tias, right?
Absolutely.
So it's just very real. It feels very real, and even with things like work authorizations, right? As if you don't if you don't give people the ability to work, right? And then someone complains about them not being able to work. It's like, well, like you're essentially just breaking their legs and complaining they can walk.
Exactly.
So it's about state violence and targeting people in our communities, most of whom are black, brown, indigenous,
Right.
immigrant.
Right.
And so it's important to understand that a lot of this is just straight up white nationalism, disguised in many different ways that translate into real state violence that hurts our people.
No, absolutely. And I mean, Chad, like even like even kind of build up off of that. Like I remember earlier we had someone asked why not, why not just make it easier. Well, the reason why is because again, like there's a constant back and forth, a constant like tug of war, like at play, where it's like, okay, well, just make it easier. But again, like all the fear mongering and stuff makes it like damn near impossible to make it easier, right? And it's like that's why again, I've always said, and Victor, correct me if I'm wrong, I've always said that real change starts at the local level, right? So like going to your local officials, all that, making sure that they hear what you're thinking, right? Like making sure that your thoughts align with your communities. I mean, like it's super important to go to these town hall meetings and to be a part of these local things, and like real change starts locally, man. Like genuinely. And so I again, I just realized that we are in a constant tug of war of false information and fear mongering and making things better and easier for people, like that live here or that want to live here or however. Like it's not as easy as, okay, well let's just elect someone, or like let's just make someone president. Like no, like it's very much like these things start locally. Like these things start with like going to your town hall meeting on Tuesday, so just keep that in mind.
And it started with your community. And
absolutely.
Like, even us chatting right now, this is a community.
Absolutely.
It's an online community, but it's a community, and this is literally how it starts. It starts from like at the community level, and then a bunch of communities coming together. That's a whole town, and that's how it starts, right? Like, and like we do believe in like bottom up power and change, and this is what we're doing, because at the end of the day is the local communities and the local families and the people around us who will feel the pain of this if we let it happen. And that's why the call to our allies is to get activated, to join United We Dream, to check out our resources, to become part of our list, to get activated, to go into the spaces where we might get targeted, and protect each other, keep each other safe, and make sure that we fight as hard as we can for the next 4 years. Yeah. Because there are changes and things that we can do to prevent any more suffering from happening.
Right. And so I kind of want to ask you this question as well, because I think this is a really good one. Someone said, I have a question. How do you avoid falling for propaganda, and how do you find reliable resources regarding today's politics?
Oh, that's a great question.
Yeah, it's really
yeah, I think there are many different things, right? I think there are two parts of this. Number one is that we are consumers of information, but we also put information out there.
Right.
So it's a two-way street, right? As consumers of information, we should always look for accurate, trusted, verifiable information. Always.
Right.
This information that is intended to hurt communities is usually designed so you have a very visceral and emotional reaction to it.
Right.
Right. So if you watch something that makes you feel like insanely, enraged or like having like a really like intense emotional response to it,
right,
just pause, breathe, inhale,
right, yeah,
right, because you need to verify that information. Like the information that really appeals to that emotional state is the information that usually leads you to like retweet, click, whatever, without verifying, and that's how this information spreads like fire.
Right.
So go to trusted sources of information, verify it, right? And I would say it right here, like just kind of like self advertising, I guess. United
Go ahead, man.
Go ahead. You know what I mean? Like we are in many ways that trusted of information in our communities, because we are a network of people that gets directly impacted by these policies.
Absolutely.
And so if you want to know what's happening with DACA, if you want to know what's happening at the state and local level, if you want to know what your rights are, if you want to know what the next steps are to fight the administration, then just follow us at United We Dream on Instagram, on Facebook. Go to unitedwedream.org. We always have like press releases, resources, guides there. And if you join our movement, then we're able to like send you information directly and tell you what the steps are for what the fight is ahead. But I would say as a consumer of information is always verifying and trusting the trusted messengers around you. But then as spreader of information, you yourself are a trusted messenger in your community. Like sometimes we don't realize this, but when you post something on Twitter or like X, although I refuse to call it X.
Yeah, no. It's just Twitter. It's Twitter.
Oh yeah, I'm not doing that. But yeah, like when you share something on your social media, what you're doing is you are sharing information with your close community, right? And so you are a trusted messenger to them. Like they look at you, they say, "Oh, I know this guy. He has good opinions and whatever. I know him. Like he's probably not lying to me." And so before sharing, verify as well, because you are the trusted messenger that your community needs to be well informed and to not fall for this sort of like anti-immigrant dehumanizing language and disinformation.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm even like just like scrolling down you guys' Twitter page right now, just because I followed it myself not so long ago, just because like again, Chad, like there's a lot of reactionary headlines. We live in a reactionary society, especially nowadays. So these headlines are hoping that you don't do that extra click, right? Or they're hoping you don't go look it up yourself. Like they want you to just feel how you feel based off what the info that they provide you. And I can personally say, following people like UWD really helps me understand, and again, like it's about like the daily reminders. I really like how you guys will post stuff like, hey, stop by law enforcement, stay calm and do this. Like that kind of stuff is really good to just help you stay in the know. And again, like that's like learning little facts like that is what helps you navigate conversations in the future, right? And so me personally, like whenever I see a headline that makes me feel away, Chad, the first thing I do is literally just look it up. Like I just look up the situation, I look up what's going on, because I genuinely do not believe anything I see on the internet. Like I just can't. Like I don't know what it is, but I'm like, before I get upset about this, or I do commentary about this, or I feel way about this, let me just look it up. And Chad, also, like it's like how like Vic said, we're a community. So if there's ever something that y'all want to talk about, bro, ask. You know what I mean? Ask. And like we can look into it together. Like I don't mind. I'm like as y'all know, the reason why I'm even having this conversation today with Vic, this is something that I really care about, and I want y'all to feel comfortable, having these conversations with like people that with people that you can, I think it's really important. So don't ever be afraid to ask questions here in this chat, and again, don't be afraid to go to UWD and you know, like look for this information yourself. I mean, that is genuinely how you stay in the know, is by going out and you know, like it's like you said, taking a breather and just taking a second to make sure that the headline isn't trying to sway you in a certain direction. And also, I kind of want to avoid questions about certain parties. Just kind of keep it about what like what we've been talking about, if you don't mind. Also, so this is another question, Vic, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Mick came back with another question that said, since it's most likely xenophobic beliefs at the heart of plans like Project 2025, how do we go about removing the xenophobia from this country, from at least a majority of politicians? Is it even possible to like to fight that direct xenophobia?
Yeah. I'll give you my honest answer, because obviously I'm not gonna claim that I know how to fix racism.
Right? Yeah.
In the world. But I'll give you my honest answer. I think it really does have to do with our information diets. It's a kind of like negative feedback loop, right? So like takes someone like, you know, President-elect Trump. He ran on a anti-immigrant base using an anti-immigrant narrative because it worked.
Right.
And it worked because of some of the same things that we were talking about before, right? Like it taps on that fear and that anger and that resentment, and it gives us an outlet. And scapegoating is really effective, and people just sow this kind of headlines, sow this kind of you know, hateful rhetoric, and out of, you know, emotional anger and resentment and frustration and fear, then they reshare it, and then they actually got out of the couch and went and voted for him.
Right.
The thing is that, you know, whether or not I think that President-elect Trump believes his anti-immigrant agenda or not, the fact of the matter is that because he ran on it, now he has to deliver.
Exactly.
Now he has to translate these anti-immigrant narratives into real action and policies. So whether or not this is actually motivated by whatever, like, it will impact our communities directly because of all this information that was shared and this hateful narrative that successfully scapegoated a very vulnerable community, and now our families are at risk.
Exactly.
So I think that the way to disrupt that, using the Gen Z power that we have, the power of technology, the power of young people, is doing literally what we're doing right now.
Right.
It's having these honest and open conversations in spaces that are not freaking like MSNBC or CNN, right? Like,
right.
We are having these conversations and building community in these spaces because we know this is where people are at, because we know that this is where people are actually caring about each other and forming real and genuine connections and community with one another. And so if we can, as trusted messengers, do this everywhere and flood every space with good information, then we have a shot at changing things in real time. And again, like, us as I United We Dream are trusted messengers. JoJo is a trusted messenger in this community.
Thank you,
Each
man.
one of you guys are trusted messengers in like your own spaces. Like, we all have platforms, whether they're small or large, and so it's how we utilize them for change and what we do on a daily basis to create that change. Things
Right.
like protecting your coworkers from raids and calling your elected officials at the local and state level to protect your families and your friends from ICE. These are tiny things that, when done repeatedly, many times, all over and over, really create change and keep us safe. So
Yeah.
that's what I would say. My 2 cents. I don't know if that will fix racism, but
Right.
I think it gives us a shot at fighting and keeping each other safe.
No, absolutely. I mean, again, you know, it's not even necessarily about fixing it right away. It's more just like, I mean, again, it's what we talked about, bro. Just being, you know, consistent, persistent, and just like, yes, the root of the problem is, you know, xenophobia, racism, all that, but it's about going into these conversations knowing that, right, and knowing how to navigate these conversations through that, right. I feel like we also kind of get caught up on that kind of stuff because, like, again, like it makes us angry and it makes us enraged. But again, don't let these people get you out of character, right? Like when you like, don't let the conversation always go back to just racism and xenophobia, right? Like figure out different ways to attack these points. And again, like go at, like, it's like Dick said, they can, argue stats, however much they want, but bro, go learn people's stories. Go learn how these things have directly affected people. They can't argue with that. Like, it's what's happened. It's what's happened, right? Like, they can argue numbers all day, but numbers are not human, right? And that's just like, take that away from them. You'll see that these conversations kind of become a lot easier to navigate. Let me see. Chat bar, are there any more questions you guys have? And Vic, while we wait for some more questions, is there anything that you want to revisit?
Yeah, I mean, like, if some people, I mean, I don't know who has like joined more recently or not, but just given the overall recap, my name is Victor, right? Like, from United We Dream, organizer, immigrant myself. We are the largest, youth-led, like immigrant youth-led network in the country. We build power for young people of color. We keep each other safe. We pressure elected officials at all levels of government. We share resources to keep people safe. We organize. So we make sure to fight back. And, something that I've like said many times before is that, when institutions fail you, you turn to communities. And we are here building community. We are here making sure that everybody knows their rights, that everyone knows what to do, that everybody knows how to become an organizer at their local level, that everyone knows how to take action. And, if you go to unitedwedream.org, if you go text unafraid to 78757, you can get plugged in, take action, become part of the network, become an ally that will fight for not only our immigrant communities, but probably your loved ones as well. Like people who in your community, your friend, your significant other, maybe your teacher, maybe your neighbor, who are also directly impacted, and the families that also have a lot of directly impacted people in them.
Absolutely. And also, this is just what I just said a second ago. I feel like the again, like the faster you get plugged in, the more you can like navigate these conversations better. The biggest enemy to racism is knowledge, right? I mean, like a lot of people, they're xenophobic and racist because they don't understand, and they just again, like they let people think and speak for them. So the more prepared you are to offer a different perspective, the harder it is for them to hold on to that, right? And again, it's like Vic said, sometimes people are lost causes, but also sometimes it's best to give people the benefit of the doubt. Like, again, be empathetic and be aware that ignorance is bliss, right? Like a lot of these people have these ignorant takes because it's easier to not know and not care than to, right? So just remember that y'all are again, like get plugged in, go to the website that's pinned, bro. Just get in the know, right? Like just learn how to navigate these conversations for yourself. And so this kind of leads me to my next question, from the chat. They said, I don't know if you guys touched on this, but what made deportation so widespread, and why has it become such an escape for many politicians?
Yeah, that's a great question. Again, I think to answer that, we sort of like need to flesh out a little bit what populism is.
Please do.
We are dealing with a white nationalist populist in office. Absolutely. For the next 4 years. I think it's important that we understand sort of like these definitions.
Yeah.
Something that populism does is it undermines trust on institutions, things like the media, things like science, things like doctors, right? Things like experts. It undermines this trust on things that are like facts-based.
Yeah.
And he places all the trust around a big personality, aka Trump.
Right.
That essentially gives really simple and easy solution to extremely nuanced and complicated issues. Exactly. Right? So mass deportation is just a really easy fix, which fixes nothing and makes a lot of suffering happen for a lot of people, real people on the ground that you might know, right? without really focusing on the real problems.
Exactly.
And so, again, it has an emotional driver there that is appealing to some people, but the way that it has become so easy for them to evoke it as the solution to things like housing, which is incredibly stupid, it's because it's an easy fix. So easy fix, easy votes, done, right? And again, I think like part of our message for people out there has to be that it will fix nothing. It will make things worse, actually, and it will make a lot of people suffer. These people are not an abstract concept to me. They are part of my community. I am myself impacted by these kind of things. But for a lot of people out there, it also implies making suffering, like creating suffering for people around them that come from a mixed status family, that are their neighbors, that they know. So it's an easy fix to complicating nuanced issues, like why wages haven't grown in the past 5 decades, or why are people not able to afford healthcare and housing and college tuition, right? But instead of like creating real solutions to all those things, they are just like, what, we're just gonna mass support people. So easy fix, horrible. They use the humanizing language for that purpose. But it's just a tactic that populists do to dehumanize the people around us and to seize power.
Absolutely. And I mean, again, Chad, like it's like you said, they say it's an easy fix, but they're saying that so you don't have to put too much thought into it, right? Like they're saying, oh, like, yes, this is a huge problem and blah 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 blah. Like again, like they use these big scary words and they say, but here's the simple solution, get rid of everybody. And it's like that's just like, again, there's so much more nuance and there's so much more like things to play than just get rid of everyone. And that's why it's so frustrating to me, because they're taking such a complex thing like human lives and just acting like it's a simple fix to just just throw everyone away. It's ridiculous. And just remember that, bro. Like you're gonna hear a lot of simple fixes, and it's not simple fixes, but it's also because they're presenting the problem like it's an easy, like it's a simple problem. So it's pretty much like if your teacher asked you like a trigonometry question, he was like, well, 2 + 2 does equal 4. And it's like, what? How do you get there? Right? It makes no sense. And so this I think this question is interesting. I don't know the answer to this one, but I want you to say in the very good way that you do. So someone in my chat named Scat asked, do you believe they will deport people who want to make a live? They said, do you believe that they will deport people who want to make a living and life here in America, or do you think that they'll at least have fair criteria, hopefully, and maybe make a better way to enter and become a citizen later? Which I know the answer to this, but please, you have the floor.
Yeah, I think like I said before, right?
Mm-hmm.
We all probably know someone in our own communities that is undocumented and we don't even know it. Right? Someone that we went to high school with, your middle school friend. It could even be your teacher, your doctor, your healthcare professional, your neighbor, the person that paints your house. It could be your own family member. It could be your cousin.
Right.
It could be someone that you have actually known your entire life, that is like literally your closest friend, and you had no idea was on DACA, for instance. So my question to people would be, if we as people are not even able to tell who is who,
right,
why do you think these people who are clearly white nationalists in nature will be able to tell that difference? They won't.
Exactly.
That's the answer. Like the bigger question is, why would we have to separate people that are obviously part of our communities, or our friends, our family, our neighbors? Why do we have to define them based on having a social security number?
Exactly.
It's actually kind of insane. So the short answer is no. They won't tell the difference because they also don't care. And our job as organizers is to care because we care about our families and the people around us. And again,
Absolutely.
like for us, it's not, an abstract, number, an abstract name, an abstract ID. Like these are real people that we interact with real lives, with real feelings and emotions, and just wanting to put food on the table and be better and provide for their families and chase their dreams. Many of them are artists. Many of them sing very well. Many of them,
Right.
love gaming and Twitch. Many of them, I don't know, love Bad Bunny or like Taylor Swift, whatever. But,
No,
like,
right,
they are
exactly.
real people, right? So like, at that point, like the real question becomes, why do we keep defining people on very stupid criteria like, what your social security number is, and why don't we start looking at people by what they are? Community members,
Exactly.
family members, fathers, mothers, sons, and daughters.
Exactly. And again, like, if you hear him say that and you think, well, because that's just how it is, bro, just know that, like, things are how it is until we want them changed, right? So it's like, that's why it's so important, because again, like, just because something has been institutionalized for so long does not mean that it is not subject to changing, and we the people have the power to change that. That is how this country is set up. So just remember that, like, don't feel just like don't feel discouraged because something is just, oh well, that's how it's always been, bro. Things were like there has always been things that's how it's always been, until someone's like, wait, I don't want it to be like that anymore, and everyone's like, oh yeah, you're right, me neither. That kind of sucks. And I think it is really important to really emphasize the fact that, like, I even hate that, like, people get labeled as immigrants and all that stuff, because again, it's like it's such a term now that, like, people just have such a negative stigma about it. Again, these are, like, bro, these are people in chat right now who might be undocumented, and they enjoy laughing, they enjoy food, the culture, like they enjoy life, and it really does suck that, like, like my mom, like, she's an immigrant, she comes from Cuba, bro. My whole life I've seen people think that she's illegal just because or sorry, undocumented, illegal, whatever, just because she has an accent. And I'm sure you've even experienced that. Like, it's to the point now where even if you have an accent, which this is also one of the most diverse countries in the whole world, if you have an accent, people think that you're not even supposed to be here. And, like, it's stuff like that that really sucks. And again, like, it's every day you come across people who are normal people, normal lives, same aspirations as you. They're just not from America. And it's so crazy to think that just because they're not from here, now all of a sudden all their dreams and aspirations don't mean anything to people anymore. That's sad. That's inhumane even.
Absolutely.
And so I know that we're kind of coming to a close here, but there's a few more questions. So this is kind of a long one, and it's from someone who has been asking really good questions the whole time. They said, this is more of a general question, but I think about it a lot. How do we eradicate / fix labels? I feel like labels destroy society, but it feels like a double-edged sword. People are murderers if they kill, so they go to jail, but we also use labels to call someone dehumanizing terms because of the language they speak and their skin color, sometimes almost dehumanizing them because of this. How do we fix something that has become so prevalent in every part of our day-to-day? So kind of like, how do we combat, again, like, the negative stigma on labels and stuff that like immigrants, like how I just said, like how even calling yourself an immigrant kind of has that negative stigma of, like, you're an immigrant, what does that mean, blah blah blah, you know what I mean? Like, how do we go about that? How do we fix that?
Yeah, I mean, like, I think, like, at the core of this question is the premise that words matter.
Right.
And I agree with that. Like,
Right.
the way that we define people around us informs our reality.
Absolutely.
And so if we see someone as a non-human person, right? Like, if
Right.
we dehumanize and demonize certain groups of people and quite literally strip away their humanity,
Yeah.
then we're also stripping away our own humanity, because it's justifying us to do dehumanizing things to those people. And like, I am a big believer that language informs your reality and how we interact with each other. And so that's why I think that the way that we communicate and the way that we talk about things, it really matters. And I've studied a lot, like, the rise of disinformation.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, like, a couple of tips that I could give you all. when talking about like, let's say like immigration or any other subject, is do not use the labels that the other side uses to define us. Like we define our people in our own terms.
Right.
Like that's why we define immigrants in terms of like who they are as people, as mothers, as
Exactly.
daughters. We are not going to use the terms that they use to define us because we don't believe those terms have any validity, right? And so the way that we communicate and use those terms with one another are really important. So not amplifying sort of like their harmful language is important in our day-to-day, in our little platforms that we have, in our social media, but also not negating.
Right.
And it's going to sound like counterintuitive, but like bear with me. Like if I tell you don't think of an elephant, what's the first thing you're gonna think of? An elephant, right? So if you're saying things like immigrants are not stealing jobs, like it's gonna, the first image that is conjured up in your mind is the very thing that you're trying to negate.
Exactly.
And so like what we have to put out there, and I say this as, you know, community members that we're all here, like I believe that we are a community here, that we care deeply about our people. When we push for these narratives, what we're trying to do is like share positive messaging out there.
Yeah.
It's not negating the bad, but it's pushing the good.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's really just like providing perspectives, really. I mean, like, again, like Chad, like with you know, and also, I mean, what helps me in my day to day is always like trying to find a different way to say the same thing, if that makes any sense. Like, and that's why it's really important to be plugged into these communities like UWD, and I mean even our own, is like, you know, you don't want to, again, like use the terminology that they use to define us, because then they're like, oh blah blah blah, like, you know, again, like a lot of people, like, you know, like the white nationalists, they have their way of immediately discrediting anything you say based off of the words you say, and that's why it's really important to, again, like be in tune with these communities and be able to formulate your opinions in different formats, because bro, like you would be surprised how, if you learn how to say something in multiple different ways, how much more people will be like, okay, wait, this guy knows what he's talking about, because I'm not immediately going to what I've heard before, you know, from like these media outlets and these weirdos, right? And I also think that young people calling this kind of stuff weird is like one of the greatest ways to like ever combat it, is like just literally being like, that's weird. And like, that's really all you got to say. They hate that kind of stuff.
I'm a big fan of that framing. I think it's definitely weird, but also like it's weird and inhumane. So it's like,
yeah, exactly.
Like both at the same, like weird in a not so funny way, right? Because
yeah,
like it does like impact real people, but I do love that like young people are starting to like invalidate it and be like, dude, this makes no sense.
No, absolutely. And I mean, again, like, yeah, because it's not funny, and like the way that people are saying it, they're just like they'll hear this insane rant, this crazy tangent, and be like, that's just weird, like what are you talking about? And I think that that's a really good way to kind of like verbally smack somebody in the face, be like, oh wow, yeah, that is kind of weird, like why do I think so radically, why do I think so this way, or, you know, like black and white instead of like in the gray, and, you know, like why do I not have any nuances? It's a great way, like chat, like, you know, even in navigating your daily life, like just calling something that's weird. Like you'd be surprised how that's like a wake-up call sometimes for people. And so I know that we are kind of hitting close to you having a dip. I know you're a very busy individual. The final question I want to give to you, or say to you, is this person says, I'm reading it, I'm a little bit confused. Okay, so actually, instead of a question, is there anything you want to like what's your closing statement? Like, what do you want to say to the people before you get out? I know that we've been trying to plug the United We Dream and y'all's Twitter and stuff like that, which y'all should definitely, you know, again, go follow and make sure that you're plugged in and stuff. What's your final thoughts here? Like what do you want to say to the people before you dip out?
Yeah, I feel like the core of my call to action, I would say here, is that, you know, as allies, we have a lot of power to be able to take bold public stances in protecting immigrants and the people we know. right?
Absolutely.
If you are students in college right now, how are you pushing our like your school administration to have protections in place for immigrant students? How are we making sure our campuses do not work with ICE? How are we making sure that people are protected in our workplaces and they have
Right.
protections as well? We have a lot of power. And I think, there's like a quote that is like, I'm just gonna paraphrase it, but it's just kind of like silence in times of oppression is just complacency. And so in this case, I think like we have the power to even engage with our like mayoral offices, our governor's officers, our city councils. We have the power to put pressure on decision makers and make a bold statement to protect each other at the community level, even outside of just like the institutional level. At the community level, we have a lot of power to keep each other safe, make sure that people know their rights, make sure that we know who is at risk in our communities and we keep them, protect them and safe, and talk to the people that we need to talk, so the people around us like stays like safe with the people they love. And I think United We Dream is a great network to get plugged in and take action.
Absolutely.
Visiting our resources by texting Unafraid to 78757, going unitedwedream.org. This is the time. We need you guys, honestly, like from the bottom of my heart, as an immigrant myself. There is a lot of people that feel alone right now in this moment.
Yeah.
And this is when we lean, to community and the people like yourself that are able to protect people like myself, people like my family, people like my best friends, right?
Absolutely.
So yeah, it's not lost. We know how to fight back. We've been here before, and we will be able to keep each other safe because we have the power of community, and the power of community will never be stopped.
Absolutely. I mean, and that goes, I mean, that's historical, right? I mean, there's so many times that the power of community has really stepped up, and this just has to be one of those times, man. I mean, like our grandparents did it, our mom and pops did it. Like it's our turn. We gotta carry that mantle for all those who came before us and all those that will come next, bro. And Vic, I just gotta say, man.
I feel like we're gonna look back at this and we're gonna be like, yeah, like we're part of this, like
yeah, no, absolutely.
Like your grandparents talk about like the civil rights movement and all this kind of stuff. I feel like this is the time when like young people we have, we'll be at the center of it. We'll be protagonists of, what's gonna happen next. And I believe from the bottom of my heart that we'll be successful in protecting and defending and fighting for a future that is just for all.
No, absolutely, man, and that's a beautiful way to bring to a close, Vic. I just gotta say, bro, again, I mean, I love y'all messaging, man. As you know, like this is something I really believe in, and I really appreciate you letting me get you on my platform and us just having a great talk, bro. I mean, I think this was a fantastic talk. I think it was really informative. Chat was really engaged, and chat, again, like the buck doesn't stop here, right? I mean, just again, I have the website pinned. The number is what is it again?
78757.
There you go. And you text Unafraid to that number. And again, they thank you so much for coming on. And hopefully in the future we can even have more discussions.
Yeah. We'll continue doing this, and big shout out to you, Jojo, for being also a trusted voice in the space and making sure that people are well informed and activated and fighting for each other and keeping each other safe. I think like it's key to have people like you in the space, and I really appreciate the opportunity, and the fight doesn't end here, y'all. Like we gotta keep going. We're moving forward.
Hell yeah. Again, bro, I hope you have a great day. Chat, W-Bitches in the chat, you know what I mean? And again, bro, just thank all y'all so much, and we will keep fighting this fight, man. Let's keep going. But I hope you have a good day, bro.
Yeah, you do all. Thank you, man. Peace.
Peace, man. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, again, big shout out to WDA for the here. I'm gonna flash this on screen so I know to end it in the clip cutting. But yeah, nah, bro. Again, yo, big shout out to UWD, bro, and Vic for coming on the platform again. And this is like our third time working together. And again, Chad, like every time that they hit me up, I'm just like, yeah, like this is something I really believe in. And just now that it's not a, I'm gonna take the ad on my chat. Chat, again, sometimes I get worried